There it
Yo,
is. There it
well,
is. I was waiting for the little ding.
ding. No, man. Another Steve Jeltz upon us. I don't know. It's been fun. I know we've had some different things kick around here that we want to talk about. I don't know. What do you want to start with?
Let's start with the thing that's really pissing me off.
I figured that's where you're going.
So now the question that I pose to you is, which thing do you think is really pissing me off the most that I want to start with? Because
Okay. Right now, I'm going to preface this by saying it can't be the Philadelphia Phillies.
no,
And when
no,
we'll get into that. Can't be that.
no,
It can't be the Philadelphia Eagles in general, just because
no,
football's around the corner and
right?
and things are looking promising. However, it could be one of two major things for involving football. One, I would say maybe the recent release of another Madden football title, or preseason slash joint practice slash whatever you want to call it at this point. Football.
So let's start with that one, because I'm going to build to the crescendo that's going to be my scathing review of Madden.
Okay, yeah.
This,
So
this
yeah,
though is the thing that's really pissing me off at the moment, and has a more, what's the word I'm looking for here? There's a lot more hypocrisy that goes into this, and there's a lot more um, real world issues that come from this. So, I'll let you kind of lead into it. We've been talking about what's going on, and what was your take on the whole preseason situation this year?
okay. Well, I'm just going to say this in general. So preseason football, I've never been a fan of. As long as I've been a football fan, as big as a football fan I've ever been, I just don't care for it. It's boring. You end up seeing a lot of third string practice squad, maybe people that are fighting for a roster spot. But if they're fighting for a roster spot, it's going to be a backup. It's going to be a fourth wideout. It's going to be something that, I hate to say it, is inconsequential to the roster that's already built. So you don't ever get to see the guys anymore. If you do, it's for a series during the entire preseason. It's not very long. So it makes for some very boring football. And again, I'm not saying that like everything about it's not exciting. It's just not what I like to watch. And I'm not the first person. I've heard this from other people that are big football fans, or people that are just really have gotten into football the last few years. Heard that comment made by somebody who was not really a football fan, but has really picked up on it the last couple of years. Say, hey, yeah, I was really excited that there was games back on. I flipped on preseason game, and my God, that was the most boring thing I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, yeah, don't do that. So yeah, and then you come into this season and you basically you're because you're down to what, 3 preseason games,
Mhm.
right, per team,
Yep.
where it used to be 4, and historically anyway, and now you have this joint practice thing. So I'm really curious on your thoughts on this, because I know you're not a fan of it.
So I am gonna say this though. Preseason games are important. And for the reason, like, I'm a degenerate. I literally sat there and watched the first 2 games. Now I was at work, but I went on to completely legitimate websites and watched both games, the whole thing. Well, as much as I could while I was at work. I enjoy them. It is a it's a means to an end. It's terrible. Like, as far as, I feel like you shouldn't you should never pay full price for, or you should really, honestly, I guess you have to charge so you can pay the staff that's working at the games, at the preseason games. But the fact that NFL teams charge full price for tickets and for parking and everything is bullshit for a preseason game, because, like you said, you're not seeing you're not seeing the your starters, you're not seeing maybe even your second string more than like 1 or 2 series. But it is important, and why it's important, and I'll give you a name right off the top of my head. Reed Blankenship. Reed Blankenship last year makes the team as an undrafted free agent. Made an impact during preseason games and training camp. And now he's your starting safety. one
Right.
of your starting safeties. So
And I think, yeah, no, go ahead.
it definitely has a purpose. But when you combine that, when you say, look, we're doing all these things in the name of player safety, we are making them wear the helmet covers, which, hey, I'm 100% for during practice and everything.
Mhm.
They've shown that it does make a marked difference in the reduction of concussions, and absolutely 100% for it. But you go and you do all these things in the name of player safety. Remove two-a-days. You take down the amount of days they can hit. You do this, you do that. And then you allow them to have joint practices with other teams that amount to scrimmages, and you let them actually have scrimmages in the weeks leading up to playing against that team. So you've essentially played 3 games in 1 week. That's not healthy. You cannot do that to your players. The Eagles against the Browns had 6 injuries. They had less injuries than that the entire preseason last year. Now, let's not pretend that the Eagles didn't make out exceptionally, like insanely well on the injury front last year. They really made out well. Hurts missed 2 games, right?
Mhm.
Trying to think who else. There was a couple players that missed games here and there. Lane
Yeah, but it
Johnson,
wasn't. Yeah, yeah,
but
it wasn't a lot, and it was very, very lucky, basically.
right. There were no season-ending injuries, which we've already seen 2 of in Sean Bradley and oh, what the hell's his name? The cornerback, Zach McPherson. Both rupture
And
their Achilles.
we've also had a retirement too. So,
Yep, Miles Jack retired. Which let me talk. Can we talk about that real quick? Like to
Mhm.
interrupt this. I am 100% for it. I support him. I think, hey man, you realized either A, you didn't have it anymore, or B, you didn't have the love of the game anymore, and you didn't waste anybody else's time. You said, you know what?
Yeah,
I'm cooked.
no,
I'm
and
done. I'm
from all
out.
accounts, he's going back to school, trade school. So
Right. So good for
good for
him, man.
him. Yep.
People have been talking shit on him online. No, get the hell out of here with that.
Yeah,
Like,
he made his money, and that was his thing. He wanted to go back to trade school. I can't remember exactly what the article said.
yeah, you're just doing
I
like
think,
plumbing and electricity.
yeah, exactly, yeah. But before we go too far down, before I forget my little thought on that too, but with the back on the preseason stuff and talking about the injuries and whatnot, and I think that's probably I don't know, it's the necessary evil there, and it sucks because it's like you have players like you said getting hurt a lot more frequently than what happened last year. But I guess luckily it's not your first string guys. It sucks, it's like you have double-edged swords. Like you'd love to see those guys play, but now it's like now you have the injury bug flicking up, and it's like, well, what if Jalen goes down in a
Right.
preseason game? Could you imagine the backlash?
Oh, he's not playing.
Exactly,
He's not
exactly.
going to step foot. And that's the thing. And so what they need to do is fine. You want to do away with 2-a-days. Great, fantastic. You want to keep the preseason games. Great, fantastic. Stop the joint practices that turn into scrimmages, because 2 days of that plus your game, again, 3 games in a week, which football is not meant to be played like that. There's a
No,
reason that football players only play 1 game a week, which leads me to a whole nother discussion about Thursday night football, but we'll talk about that on another pod because I could go on for 2 to 3 hours on that fucking mess. But that's the thing, man. If you're going to be in the name of player safety, be in the name of player safety. And I get it. Like, you can't not hit in preseason. You got to get used to it. You got to get your guys ready. You got to get your guys going. Then you know what? Do away with the preseason games. If you
hmm
want to have joint practices, have scrimmages, but do away with the preseason games, because and they'll never do that because they don't want to get rid of their TV revenue, because they still get TV revenue for putting the preseason games on. But you know what, man? Do you want your players to be safe and ready for the season so that you have a good product the entire way through the season? Or do you want your players to not be safe and be sloppy and be getting hurt and then not have a good product for the first 2 to 3 weeks while your starters who aren't playing in the preseason anyway get up to speed.
Right, exactly. I was just really curious. You said that too, about TV ratings, and it kind of made me look. So real quickly, and again, I'm just kind of real doing a quick search here. We didn't do our homework, so my apologies on this one.
No.
During the regular season, the average viewership of NBC Sunday Night Football is roughly in the 18 to 20 million viewer range. It's been that way for the last 5 years. So obviously very heavily watched programming. The Sunday Night Football game that took place recently between the Saints and the Chargers drew between 1 and 2 million. So you're looking at, a fraction. You're talking 5 to 10% of that audience. So I'm sure there's revenue there, obviously. It's not going to be nearly as high as it would be with regular season. But I've always been a fan, at least recently, I should say, of completely the same thing. It was deep six preseason football. Now, whether there's been talks of adding, let's kill preseason football, let's add another week. Is that the right answer? I don't know, because now you're just adding another, really grinding game to another already, grinding schedule. Because they've already added a week. I would imagine at some point you're going to see the playoffs get dragged out even further. I just assume, making a grand assumption there, just because that's what people really watch. So and it's money hungry, right? I mean,
Yeah.
So would that be the thing? Do you kill the preseason? Do you add a week to the regular season and also add a week to the postseason? What do you do?
You can't.
I know. It's
so. Look, if they I feel like eventually, within the next 5 to 10 years, another regular season game will be added. A preseason game will be eliminated. But you can't. This isn't the NHL. It's not the NBA. You can't extend the NFL postseason any longer than it's already extended.
Right. It's too long.
No more teams in. You don't need more teams. I understand the league wants parity and the league wants this and the league wants that. Unless there's an expansion, a further expansion, which I hope to God there's not. But unless there's a further expansion, there is no need to add more teams to the playoffs.
No, and it's crazy, like you said. It's not like hockey. It's not whatever. But this is one thing where I think baseball got right with adding this additional wild card thing. I mean, maybe I have rose-colored glasses for saying that, knowing how the Phillies got in last year. But I do think they got it right, because you do have more exposure. You do have more teams, particularly in a season that's 162 games.
Right.
There should be a little bit more opportunity to make the playoffs there.
Well, and that's the thing, man. Like 100%, because the deal is this: a hockey season, a baseball season, an NBA season, 82 games, 83 games, 162 games. There's series. There's a reason that it's a playoff series, because once you get in and once you get hot, anything can happen. We saw that, like you said, with the Phillies last year. Football is so unique in that every week is the series. There's no, every game is game 7.
Right.
If you will. So you can't do a gigantic bracket like NCAA wants to, or are they doing?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's weird. You have your with the BCS and the way that stuff flakes down. They're kind of going to that route. It works really, really well in basketball, obviously.
Right.
And it's basketball's about darn near perfected it, and they find ways to even add to it with play-in games, and they just do a really, really phenomenal job of that. But football is really, really tough. I mean, you would basically have to. Their season's shorter anyway, and look, these are college folks still. Let's not kid ourselves.
Right.
It's you would have to whittle their season down to 8 games, do some kind of tournament style thing. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how that works.
I mean, and as it stands now, we've already got teams that have been getting into the playoffs at 500 and less than 500.
Hmm.
The answer for the NFL is not more playoff teams. We're right where we need to be. If you want to add more teams to the league, maybe we can talk about it. But we've got to be adding four teams, I would say, 6 teams,
Yeah.
which I don't want to see that anyway, because then you're further diluting the product. And you're just not going to have the quality games that I mean, right now, like I said, you're already getting teams that are we've had sub 500 teams making the playoffs. And once you get in, hey, whatever happens, happens. But how pissed off would we be if the Eagles somehow end up with the second seed in the NFC and they end up playing, like, say the Cardinals somehow win the West. And if they win the West, that means that everybody fucking collapsed. So,
Exactly.
I mean, the Cardinals, and I really don't think the Cardinals are capable of winning more than like 6 games. So,
Yeah.
like, everybody in the West has collapsed. The Cardinals are getting in at 6-11, and then some fluke happens and we lose to them, right?
Yeah.
How pissed off would you be if your team pretty much ran the table, did what they needed to do? Yeah, they missed out on the number one seed, but then they get eliminated in the fucking wild card round of the playoffs by the goddamn Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah. Yeah. Jonathan Gannon's Arizona Cardinals, mind you.
Oh, I would, dude, the most punchable face aside from Pete Carroll. Like, and I'm putting him ahead of Pete Carroll because fuck him for what he did to us in the Super Bowl. But yeah, like, no, there's no way we can't get to that level. So
No,
leave it the way it is.
no. Okay. But on the football note, though, you and I have traded some notes on the latest iteration of Madden,
Yes.
and let's just go with it. I mean, I know we typically stick to just pure sports here, but look, Madden is in a way in its own entity a sport, not just because it's a football game, but well, honestly, because it's a highly popular esports title as well. So I don't think we're cheating here.
No, we're not. We're not. It's just making me want to hit myself in the head with the tack hammer. So last year, with the passing of John Madden, I felt the need to go out and get Madden for the first time. Bought Madden damn near release date for the first time in God, I couldn't tell you. I think the last one I bought, I think we figured it out the other day. It was like 2009. It was the one where Brett Favre was on the cover, and originally they printed the cover with him in the Packers uniform, and then they came back and you could download a PDF of him in the Jets uniform
Oh wow, yeah.
and print it out for your system. Who the fuck actually did that? But maybe Jets fans. Jets fans were the only ones who did that. But this is the first one I've gotten new since then. So, like, it gotten at launch. And I sat down and we've discussed multiple times, how many times I've gone through my NFL 2K5. I've gone through the franchise mode in that time and time and time and time again. Looking at my Xbox 360 on my bookshelf here. It's done well for me.
Right.
I gave it a shot, and I was, I'll say, somewhat impressed. I enjoyed it enough that I've been continuously playing it, whether it's just out of habit or whether it's because I actually enjoy it. Who knows? But it still had some issues with it, even though it was a fun game. It was enjoyable, and I liked playing it. There were still some issues with it that I saw, and I'm like, wow, it's 2022 at the time, and they still haven't figured out how to fix this stuff. Like, there was still only 3 slots in every trade, right? You could only trade um, this year and next year's draft picks. And again, you could only go 3 things at a time. So if you had a player and 2 picks you wanted to trade, that was it. You couldn't go any
Mm.
further than that. There were still some random ass glitches that would pop up. The kicking arc where you aim your kicks would disappear, and it wasn't like a feature of the stadium where, like, some of them, the other team will have home field advantages. And if they get the momentum meter going far enough, it'll mess with your game. Like your passing icons will disappear, or you won't be able to see the play art before the snap, stuff like that. And it's pretty cool. Like it shows how the crowd affects the team.
Right.
But it wasn't that. It was just that the game was glitching because it sucked. There was random things where people would get stuck on IR. People would get you'd go to upgrade a player and you would have the right amount of points, and it would say, "Oh, we're sorry, you don't have enough points to do this." So you would have to go edit the player, change their position, save it, change it back, save it, and then you could go and upgrade your player.
So basically, with what you're telling me so far, and I'm just so we kind of have a quick little recap on 22. Everything you found was pretty minor.
For the most part, there were no crashes, which that's the thing that was my bugaboo with 2K5 is the game would crash and then I would stop playing it at that point because I would make so much progress and not save because why save when you can
why
live
save?
dangerously?
Yeah.
And so I've actually had entire seasons wiped out from that because I'm fucking stupid. But so anyway, Madden 23, good game. Some little stupid shit, some stuff that I figured would have been taken away by now, but whatever. It was enjoyable.
Right.
So I get 24 because the trailers look good, and they were saying, "Oh man, it's going to be this is our make or break year." We have NCAA coming out next year, so we want to make sure that we're on top of our game so that we can integrate NCAA and we can make it like a seamless transition between the two. And dude, it's gotten worse. They have fixed some things. You can now trade up to, I want to say 7 or 8 players or picks or whatever. You can trade like multiple years in the future. That is one of the things that I've seen that's been good. We discuss music in games all the time. There's no default music. So you either have the soundtrack of whatever the rap songs are where they're rapping about football. Like it's not even songs you would hear on the radio. It's like just these weird ass songs. And then if you don't like any of them and you turn them off, there's no default, there's no basic. So it's just silence in the menus. I've had the game crash so far on me this year. I've had some glitches where, again, the kicking arc, where I'm aiming my kicks, disappears, never shows up for the entire game. I was told that the Eagles defeated Philadelphia in week 1, which was interesting. So, there was just, and then there was players that were laying on the ground that looked like they were statues and they got knocked over and they just stayed on the ground like, I wish this was video so you could see the pose.
And it's kind of funny too because, well, first of all, your comment about the Eagles beating Philadelphia, and I even mentioned this to you over text. Let's not kid ourselves here. A lot of modern day broadcasters sound about that good. So but so maybe they were trying to go for some realism there. But the statuesque thing, but there's something else in that vein too that you told me that just made me laugh with the helmet and the hair.
The hair sticking through the helmet. So, yeah, like Gardner Minshew. I was playing the preseason game, the upcoming preseason game for the Eagles. That's coming up on Thursday. We were playing the Colts, and Gardner Minshew's hair was sticking through his helmet, like through the back of his helmet. It reminded me of a bad. You know how wrestling games have gotten really good graphically, but they still cannot do hair.
Yeah. Yep.
It reminded me very much of that.
Yeah, it's very rigid. It just doesn't look
right. It never flows correctly.
No.
He looks like a hedgehog. Really, like he's got like this hair just sticking out the back of his helmet. And there's other little graphical glitches. There's other commentary glitches like, and this goes back to last year, and I'm sure it goes back even further than that. But you'll say you're up big, and your team gets an interception, and they'll say like, "Oh, the defense, what was it? I guess the offense will come out on the field and say, well, even though they're down big, their defense is still playing, and they were able to give them the ball back. Let's see if they can actually catch up and win this game or something. Like, dude, I'm winning 45-3. I don't know how much more I need to catch up. So,
yeah,
like,
and I've noticed that too, and I know you have too, but probably not as frequent and maybe not as glaring. But with like MLB The Show, where the commentary is like completely off for what just happened,
yeah,
or it's stuck on like still talking about something with a previous batter, or at least in that same vein. Maybe not exactly that way, but it's like something happened already. There was a quick first pitch hit, and then boom, and then it's like the conversation kept going, and then it's like, oh, so and so is up, and it's like, well, he's been up for 3 pitches already.
right.
It's not bad, but it's like, one of those little oddball things that happens at times. So I could see that. Wrestling games were that way too, though. I mean, the commentary can tend to be very stale, very repetitive, and maybe that's the nature of it. But to me, Madden has always been the pinnacle of sports games. I'm not saying it's ever been my favorite. It never has been, but that's like what at this point. What are we on year like 30 of it?
If not, I mean, we're very close.
You'd think they would have gotten this down.
Let's see.
That's all I'm trying to say.
Years of Madden.
35? I don't know.
35.
35. Okay. And it was 30, 35, somewhere along there.
So Madden's been out. Madden has been alive in some way, shape, or form for 35 years now.
Yeah.
And you're right. There was a point where it was the gold standard of sports games.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's gotten to the point where they're not innovating enough. And what they're doing is they take away features, and then they make this big deal when they bring them back. Like they had gotten rid of the training camp mini games that you would have, that you used to have. It was just a standard feature. They got rid of it. It wasn't in 2023. I don't know when it disappeared from the game, but they brought them back this year, and they're really good. And it's cool that they're back, but at the same time, why did they go away in the first place?
Right.
It didn't really change them much when you brought them back.
I was wondering that too. It's like, you take a feature away, what did you exactly add?
Dude, all right.
Madden
2006. Okay. Madden 2006, when it released for the Xbox, PS2, and GameCube. Fully fleshed out game, fantastic. A great Madden game, right? When it came out for the 360, I specifically remember bringing it to your house, and we played it on like Christmas Eve or Christmas. And something happened in the game. There was a play that where something didn't look right, and I remember going to challenge the play, and they didn't have challenges in the game.
That's right. Yeah.
Not only did they not have challenges in the game, there was no franchise mode. There was no commentary aside from like a disembodied radio voice. There was no fucking Madden in that game. John Madden didn't say a fucking word in that game. Okay? It's not quite that bad. The 2024. It's definitely a playable game, but I've been seeing stuff online. I know I had trouble initially when I installed it. It was running really jankily. I'm making up words now, but it was chugging at certain points where it shouldn't have and everything. And I had it in performance mode, not graphics mode. And so I moved it from my M.2 to the main storage on the console, and it started running better. It still has a little of some graphical hiccups here and there as far as performance wise, but by and large, it's running well. But I've seen people just having nothing but crashes, having all kinds of issues with it. And it shouldn't be that way. It's a AAA
No,
title.
no, it shouldn't at all.
It's the AAA title, if you want to call it for sports games. Unless, I mean, I guess maybe FIFA is now. Maybe 2K basketball is now. But it's, there's just so much. It should be so much fucking better by this point.
Yeah,
It's
no,
not this isn't the first, Madden of this generation. It should be better.
Okay, so last thing on Madden, I do have a question though. The Eagles, as far as using them as a team, comparative to maybe realistically anyway, do they seem looks wise good, ratings wise decent? I mean,
Looks wise, good. Ratings wise, not really. Oh, that's the other thing. You know what? Let me rail on this for a minute too, because I almost forgot about this. The roster size is limited to 75 in the preseason. In the NFL, it's 90. The commentators even say during preseason games, it's getting so hard with even with the spot charts to keep track of all the players now that the rosters are up to 90 in the preseason.
they're like, no, they're not.
Make it fucking make sense. And then I don't know how this happened, but I was going through my list of my players, and there's players on the team that never played for the team. So, and I made sure it's not because it's Phil roster turned on, because I turned all that shit off, but they were just on the team. I'm like, I don't know where the fuck you came from. Bye. And
right.
But and that's the other thing is, because I guess they don't have the roster limits up to 90, they don't have every player in the league. Like, some of them aren't even free agents. They're just not. They don't exist.
They're just not there.
So,
now, I was going to say, are they? And so some of the other spots, are they backfilled with like fake players, or what's the?
No, there's no.
They're just not there.
They don't exist.
Wow. Huh.
So
that's wild. Do they have the Kelly Greens?
They do have the Kelly Greens.
Okay.
Now here's the issue though, and this is something I noticed last year. So last year for the Eagles, their away team or their away uniform is always the white top, green pants. And they have on occasion worn the black pants. For some reason last year, they had the default away uniform as the black pants, which small minor thing pissed me off. They also last year they had the Kelly Greens, they had the alternates and everything. But it seemed like they didn't have the alternates for every team. They did have this year. They have the alternates for they have the Kelly Greens, and they also have the all black, so the black helmet too, which you will not see this season because you can only have 2 helmets max.
Right.
You can only have the green helmet, and we have the green helmet and the Kelly Green.
But that's just typical sports games in general. They always have extra crap you can throw on. Yeah.
And believe me, I'm stoked about that because I love the Kelly Greens. They look great in the game. The only thing I don't know, and I'm sure we'll find out eventually, is on the back of the helmet they have the Eagles in the new word mark on the Kelly Greens. I don't know if they're doing the new word mark or if they're doing the old school. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's not
right. It's a minor, inconsequential.
It's such a minor, tiny thing that I'm not going to sit here and be like, "Oh, fuck you, NFL or Madden, you couldn't get that shit right."
That should be like the only thing you said.
Right.
Like that's like, oh, the game is so awesome. And like, you know what though? The one thing that really grinds my gears.
The one thing that's really chupacabra, gets my goat. I'll give him a break on that. That's the one place I'll give him a break.
Let's all right. Before we move on to some more positivity, you got any more negativity to shed?
Trying to think. I don't think the Eagles are. Marcus Mariota looks like shit. But
not good.
But I will say this, and I hate to give him a pass on this because Tanner McKee's looked great, and he's playing with arguably worse players. He's also playing against worse players.
Sure.
How does Marcus Mariota look behind the Eagles' starting offensive line? How does he look with the weapons that the starting offense provides? Could be night and day. Then
Very well could be.
again, we also saw Gardner Minshew last year come out and put up 40 spot on Dallas, still lose because the defense cost him the game, and Quez Watkins fumbling away the ball cost him the game. And then come out and lay a turd against who the fuck was it? New Orleans. Right? And lose to New Orleans. But I'm really impressed with Tanner McKee. I do see people calling for us to get rid of Mariota and sign Nick Foles. And I understand where they're coming from. But at this point, I don't think Nick Foles wants to play. I think Nick Foles, if he signs a contract, it's going to be like a one-day retirement contract so he can retire as an Eagle.
Right. And here's my thoughts too. Is I've really watched him and I've read a lot and I've seen some clips. My thing is you keep Mariota on a short leash. Again, you're talking about second stringers, so hope to God that he's not used very often for anything.
Right.
However, if it does come to that, short string, 1 quarter, couple series, whatever it may be, and if he is just not performing whatsoever, I think that's when you slap Tanner McKee in and see what you have, and then you make your decisions from there. I don't know. I think that's a negligible thing when you're talking about having one of the top flight quarterbacks in the league and hope he can stay healthy throughout the season. And Jalen, but who knows? And
then on the defensive side of the ball, for the love of God, get the fuck rid of Derek Barnett. The guy's a walking fucking yellow flag. Get his ass off of this team before he costs us a fucking game. He, big surprise, was involved in a scuffle before the fight broke out at practice today.
At joint practice today?
Yeah. So now started by one Jason Kelce because he took exception to a hit that was laid on Kenny Gainwell. And so he fucking laid some dude out. But Derek Barnett was involved in some extracurriculars before that happened because he's a fucking hothead who doesn't know how to hold his temper. Get him the fuck off the team. I don't care that you just guaranteed $3 million of his contract. I don't give a fuck. Get rid of him. He sucks. Thank you for recovering the fumble in the Super Bowl. Get the fuck out.
All right. Is that enough negativity shed?
Oh, also fuck the Sixers. Daryl Morley is a piece of shit. Fuck him.
I know. Okay. Before we go here, though, we do have to, let's say, a little bit of positivity, real quick. Positive things. Phillies are still looking good, still cooking. Yes. Just again, maybe a couple of hiccups here and there, but this team just fighting. They're looking good. Won a couple big games against the Giants here. And we're talking football. I almost said the New York Giants. That's bad.
That would be the New York Football Giants.
Yeah. No, I almost said that. But no, they're looking good. Trey's got a hot bat again.
Hell yeah, he does.
And it's cool to see some contributions just kind of from everybody.
Brandon Marsh is back.
Yeah, Marsh is back. Harper's obviously, whether they're out of the park or in the park, hitting some bombs. And tell you what, Alvarado came back tonight on the mound, so that was nice to see. Threw a nice seventh inning. I don't know. It's just everything's clicking right now. The 4 games up in the wild card race. These were 2 important games to win, mainly because that's one of your biggest competitors in that race. Look, I think we've talked about this year before. They're not going to win the division.
No.
The Braves are just running away with it at this point. Acuna, if that guy is not the MVP, I don't know. That guy's got to have the MVP twice over. for the NL anyway. It's just ridiculous. It's got to be Acuna and Otani, which I believe. Yeah, exactly. That guy. I would imagine that I think they were talking about because the Phillies play the Angels soon, and I believe it lines up for Otani to pitch against the Phillies, and not looking forward to that one.
Hey, listen, I'm looking forward to it. You know why? So we can see our new ace pitcher in action in Philly. Or wait, is it in Philly or is it in LA?
I think it's in Philly.
There we go.
Let's look real quick here before we wrap up. So they start playing next Monday, and it's in Philly. So they get Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Dude, so here's the deal. Look, Philly fans, I know none of you are listening, but here's the deal. We show that dude some fucking love, man. Show him what it's like to play in Philly. Get him, start the recruiting now. Let's get Otani to Philly, right? It's perfect. It lines up great.
You're not wrong.
I'm not saying go out there and cheer him, but if or maybe we do. I don't know. I've never cheered an opponent before, but maybe Mike Trout gets some cheers. Maybe Otani gets some cheers, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I like the idea. I like the concept. And here's crazy though. Real quick before we sign off here. The Angels right now, as we record, sit at 61-64. So they are far back in the AL West. Not as far back as the Oakland Athletics. That's just sad.
Yeah.
But talk about a team that went all in basically at the deadline and is just absolutely fallen apart. And look, I hope they're competitive games. I always do it. So I just love watching good baseball. So I hope you're right. Hope Otani does get some love and say, "Oh yeah, look at that, I'm gonna play here." Man, I talk about a team that just fell off the wagon after making a bunch of moves.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking like fucking falling off the wagon into the gutter and then getting splashed by an oncoming car. Like,
yeah,
they have just been, it's been brutal. Like, I definitely expect them to make a run. Like you said, they went all in. They got Giolito. They got, they got all these players. And dude, is it the stadium?
I don't know. You have so well, let's look at that. So home, they're 2 games over 500. Right? In a way, they're 5 under 500. So it's basically a wash.
Yeah. Like, dude, it's got to be the organization. It's just cursed.
I don't even you have Babe Ruth and you have, Trout has some injury history there. Let's not kid ourselves. You basically have 2 of the best players though when healthy, generationally, and you're sitting 3 games under 500. It's just not good.
Right.
Not good.
Two of the best players generationally, and one of them pitches and plays the field. So you're just, God, they're getting wasted at this point. Like, just free them. Let them free. Yeah.
That's what I thought about the Otani thing. I thought for sure, whether, they were hovering that 500 mark, and that's still feasible. Make that wild card run, I guess. Yeah. But I thought for certain, I think I was almost like fantasizing about the trade haul. What could if he had brought them? Oh, basically for a team that would have had him as a rental and possibly, sign him to a long-term deal. But what could that have possibly have looked like? And it's like, my goodness, the Angels could have had it all.
And if you look at the 2 guys that we sent out there, Moniak's not playing bad this year. He's got, he got 12 home runs. He's hitting 270 something. Logan O'Hoppe isn't quite hitting what I had thought he was going to when he was here, and I was thinking maybe we should keep him and trade JT when it was looking like he wasn't really,
right. And he just came back.
Right.
He just came back. So, well, maybe we'll see what happens with him, because he was injured from basically the end of April till now. So 4 months on the injured list.
Oh yeah, and he's okay. He's only got 62 at bats so far this season, so I'm not judging him by that. But I mean, 62 at bats. He's already got 4 homers. He's just hitting 242.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and everything with him happened really early on. Like he was on fire, and then boom, got injured, and that was it. So
yeah, I mean, Mickey
but
Moniak on the other hand, let's see,
Moniak's been
259 at bats. He's got 39 RBI. He's got let's see, 12 homers, 6 stolen bases, and he's hitting 274.
yeah, he's very hot and cold. He's been a good ball player. I mean, uh, for any kind of comparison, I think my best comparison with him is Brandon Marsh. Marsh obviously has been a better player. 281, 8 homers, 44 runs knocked in, and metrically higher WAR. But he's also had more at bats too.
Right.
But that's to me that's my I've always compared those two. Not many more at bats, by the way, only about 60. Because that's where it would have been without if you don't make that Marsh O'Hop and then the Moniak swap for Syndergaard. If none of that happens, you basically have Moniak in center.
Right.
But even with the statistically lining up better for Marsh, just on the team, Marsh is a much better fit.
Yes.
So,
and you can see it in everything that goes on,
yeah. So anyhow, but all right. Any closing words?
Fuck Dallas.